Hey guys, what's up? Jim here, bringing you another voice tutorial on BE6K Small Edition. That's what we're working on right now. Our first video in this series was a BE6K Small First Look. Today we're going to be looking at the Cimc access, how to get into it, and we're actually going to be changing some IPs around. So you can go to the screen, and we can see we've already changed some networking that was in this guy. We have a connection to an ASA on the gig 00 for our WAN, and we're starting to put in some sub interfaces for our LAN connectivity. We have multiple VLANs, so we're segregating out management, voice, some data, and there'll probably be more later on. This is just a good starting reference point for us. Our voice VLAN is going to be on the gig 01.20 in this case. I'm not going to spend a lot of time about explaining all this, but it's just the sub interfaces for our VLANs. Now the voice VLAN, or I'm sorry, the voice configuration that came pre-configured on this, I have not messed with that as of yet. So the IP address going to the actual blade is still the same. The pre-configured IP addresses are still there on the bridged interface so that we can access all this, the Cimc module that was initially configured. So we can take a look and see that our bridged interface is 172.27.199.1 that came from the factory, and they have set the 199.2 with the default gateway of the .1, which is the bridge interface. So we're going to be accessing the Cimc module via this interface and the router on that IP address. So it basically goes through the fabric of this switch down to the Cimc module of the blade server, and that command is right there. It's actually using the console or the fabric of this switch to go down to the shared LOM of the blade. And that can be changed. You can actually change this to be dedicated. And in that case, it would actually go down the gig 01 interface towards the LAN, hit our switch, and then go back to the dedicated port on the blade server through a network connection between that and our local switch. So that could be done. And I think that these would be the two most common ways, is through the console or the fabric of the actual router, or going down to the switch and have a dedicated management port. We're going to stick with the way this is. In this case, there's not really a need to use another switch port for dedicated management. We'll just use the shared LOM via the console of the router. So we're going to leave that part alone, and we're going to go and access the Cimc module itself. It's basically Cisco's version of Lights Out module. Has a lot to control with the UCS server itself. Can power it on and off remotely. So without further ado, let's just take a peek at that and get logged into it. And default is admin password. And you can see I'm hitting the 172.27.199.2. And here we are in the Cimc module of this guy. You can see that it is powered on with the options to restart, power cycle. A little bit later we will be launching the KVM console, which gives us basically view and control of the UCS server like you're looking at it with the keyboard and monitor. You know, with the actual BE6K, not the small, most of the time you'd have to hook up a USB, a keyboard, and a monitor in order to set the Cimc module to start with when you're first staging your gear. In this case, we are able to go straight through the router And I'm remote. I'm not sitting in front of this actual equipment at the moment. So it's nice to be able to just jump in and get this stuff done. So we can see that there's a lot of server options over here. We're going to go over to the admin tab and go to the network tab. And you can see that it's set up for the shared LAN. And it's going through the console. And you can see that there's multiple options for getting the NIC interface. But we're just going to go through the console. Go ahead and set the host name while I'm in here. I'm just going to do the E for small. And we're going to change these guys while we're in here. You know, if you're going to keep everything the same, you would just leave this part alone. But in this case, we are changing it. And that is our management VLAN that I'm assigning that to. So the 10.26.10 network, the .1 will be our default gateway. So we have .200 that we'll have to remember later, and the 10.26, or I'm sorry, yes, 10.26.10.1 is the default gateway. So now that we do that, we can actually save it, and we'll lose connection till we change things on the BE6K side, which is fine. And in this case, we do not need to enable VLANs because it's just going through the console router fabric. So we'll just save it without any VLANs. 10.26.10, 10.26.10, okay, 10. We're all good there. And that's just a warning saying, hey, you might lose connectivity, which I've already said. So now that that is done, we can go back over here and we can change all of our networking here to point to the new IP address. So basically we're going to switch it from looking at the bridged interface, and we're going to switch it to looking at the management interface. So let's just go into the interface, UCS 10. And we're going to change this to be IP unnumbered. Gig 01.10. We'll change the IMC IP address to match our subnet. And that's going to be 200. And our default gateway is the 10.26.10.1. All right. And so that basically is taking it out. We need to take it out of the bridge group. So it's taking it out of this subnet, and now we're sticking it into our management VLAN. Let's see if we can get some activity going here. All right, there we go. Got some connectivity. Just had to wait for it to catch up there. And now we can go back and change this over to our correct IPs. get this thing to refresh. We'll be good. Oh, forgot one thing. Let's switch back over to console. It's just like a service module, so we actually have to do an IP route. And that's going to the actual UCS E0. So that should be a little bit better now. Let's go back over and refresh this. There we go. So basically, we have to change the IP address, which interface that it's going to use. So the IP on number gig01.10 in this case, we're using VLAN 10. And we have to get it out of the bridge interface, change the IPs themselves, and then do a route through that interface. So we'll just log back in with admin password at default, and we are now logging in to the newly changed IP address that matches our customer's network. Instead of having the same thing that multiple customers might have with the default IPs that come from Cisco Factory. And this just gives a little bit more customization to a client. And now you have a look at the Cimc module that comes on the Cisco UCS servers. And this might be the first time that you're ever seeing a UCS or a Cimc module. So just a quick look around. We have access to power on, see what's going on. In the small edition here, we actually have the options to lock the power reset buttons that are on the actual blade physically. We lock that out here. We can look at the inventory of the server, what all is in here, have some RAID options to go through. All this comes in handy when you're trying to troubleshoot actual server issues. Shows you sensors. Going back up to the inventory, you can see memory, power, all that stuff. BIOS settings, you can change the boot order from here and save it. Power policy, so you can see the current consumption. And then over here in the admin tab, you've seen the network. That's where we change the actual IP addressing of the Cimc module, which is the lights out. You can go in and set NTP, all this stuff here. So it's, very nice to have all these different utilities, and we can do firmware updates and all that stuff. You can actually go in there we go, to RAID, and see your actual hard drives. This one has 3, the size of them, the RAID levels, and you could go through and do some configuration changes if needed for troubleshooting. So that's the Cimc module, briefly, how overview. But the majority of the things you need to know is the networking tab, or the network settings. You can actually see all of the interfaces that are on here. The actual console, which is going through the router fabric, and then you have the dedicated management port and 2 Ethernets that will be connected to later in vSphere. And let's just pop back over to the BE6K, and we remember we have to do a route statement for the network that's going down through that module. and we can see that we've changed which interface we're connecting through with the IPs, and we're leaving this bridge interface alone, and it will actually be deleted out later. So now we'll be using this management VLAN for our access to the Cimc. In our next video, we'll be going through and getting vSphere up and running, changing the IPs on that, and showing you that access. So we'll actually get into getting into the KVM module and looking through all the server settings. So stay tuned, and please remember to like and subscribe to our channel. Thank you.